ever imagine yourself at the forefront of a revolution? And I don't mean a political one, haha, but a transportation revolution.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about the comeback of rail and the vital role rolling stock engineers play in making it all happen.
It's huge.
We've been digging into some insights from RoleCatcher, that career platform,
Oh, yeah, they're great.
and we're ready to share all those need-to-know details with you.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Across the globe, rail is having a real moment.
That's right.
And it's not just for us passengers, Freight is a big deal too.
Right.
It's all about sustainability these days, right?
Hmm.
Finding smarter ways to move goods around. And that's a big reason why the job market in this sector is booming.
I bet.
RoleCatcher's data shows a real demand for skilled engineers, especially those who get the whole green technology thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. Everyone's looking for that.
And it's not just any city, but bustling urban hubs. Those are the hot spots.
Okay, so it sounds like some serious opportunities are out there. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break down what a rolling stock engineer actually does. I gotta admit, before this deep dive, my mental picture was a bit
Well,
limited.
let me guess. Greasy overalls, a wrench in hand, under a vintage locomotive.
You got me.
Uh-huh.
I don't-
Well, there's definitely some hands-on work involved, no doubt about that. But it's far more diverse than you might think. When we say rolling stock, we're talking about a whole family of vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah, locomotives, sure, those are classics.
Yep.
But also carriages, wagons, and those sleek, modern, multiple-unit trains you see in cities. A rolling stock engineer is involved in every stage. Design, manufacturing, installation, and yes, even the nitty-gritty of maintenance throughout their entire life cycle.
So it's not just about building something new and shiny. It's about understanding how it'll function, stand the test of time.
Absolutely.
That's a whole other level of expertise. And I think RoleCatcher mentioned some seriously cool tech is coming into play these days.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really exciting time to be in this field. We're seeing this fusion of traditional engineering principles with cutting-edge tools, like 3D printing and robotics.
Oh, wow. That's why.
It's transforming the way trains are built. Imagine printing custom parts on demand, right there in the factory, or automating those super intricate assembly tasks. It's a whole new ballgame.
I have to admit, that's seriously impressive stuff. But I'm guessing it's not as simple as, walking into a train factory with your trusty 3D printer and calling yourself a rolling stock engineer, right? What are the must-have skills someone needs to work in this field?
It's a blend, that's for sure. And you might be surprised to hear that some of the most crucial skills aren't the ones you'd expect.
Oh,
RoleCatcher's analysis highlighted 3 skills in particular that might surprise you.
all right, lay it on me. I'm always up for a good surprise.
First up, and this might sound surprisingly basic, is reading comprehension.
Really? I wouldn't have put that at the top of my list. I'd think it'd be all, technical stuff.
Right, but think about it. These engineers are constantly dealing with technical specs, safety regulations, detailed reports.
Yeah.
They need to process that information accurately and quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's no room for misinterpretations when you're dealing with train design, right?
That's true. One misplaced decimal point in a blueprint could have some pretty serious consequences. What's next on the list?
Judgment and decision-making.
Okay, important in any field, right?
Right, but this isn't your everyday, what should I have for dinner type of decision-making. We're talking about weighing potential risks, evaluating solutions, often under pressure. These choices directly impact a train's safety, efficiency, even its environmental impact.
No pressure then, right. So even though it's this highly technical field, it seems like those softer skills are just as crucial as, say, knowing your way around a wrench.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing those technical skills still matter a great deal.
Absolutely. You need a rock-solid foundation in either mechanical or electrical engineering. Think thermodynamics, material science, circuit design.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding how these systems work together.
Of course, to keep those trains moving.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered reading comprehension, decision-making. What was that third essential skill RoleCatcher mentioned?
It's monitoring.
Uh,
And it's not as passive as it might sound.
mm,
It's more than just checking gauges. It's about constantly assessing how things are performing.
okay.
From your own work to the train itself, once it's out there in operation, are there areas for improvement? Can we optimize for efficiency, safety, you name it? It's a proactive mindset.
So it's not enough to build a train that looks good on paper. It needs to perform in the real world for years to come.
Exactly.
It sounds like rolling stock engineers are problem solvers on a whole other level.
You got it.
That's
They
what-
need that rare combination of technical brilliance and, that practical know-how.
Right.
But going back to what you were saying earlier about just waltzing into a factory with a 3D printer.
Yeah.
There's a bit more to it than that. Haha.
Right, we need to talk about the education side of things.
Yeah.
I'm picturing, like, years of intense study, mountains of textbooks, all about train axles and whatnot.
You're not wrong about the years of study. A bachelor's degree is usually the starting point. Mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, sometimes even things like aerospace or materials science, those can be surprisingly relevant.
Wait, aerospace engineering for trains. Now that's a connection I wouldn't have made.
It might seem counterintuitive, but think about it. High-speed trains, they have to deal with aerodynamic drag, just like airplanes.
Oh.
And materials science is crucial for developing components that are both lightweight and strong. Those engineering principles, they often have applications across different fields.
That's a good reminder that knowledge from seemingly unrelated areas can actually be a huge asset. You mentioned a master's degree can also be valuable.
For sure. It allows engineers to really dive deep into a specialization, like train dynamics, advanced control systems, even sustainable design.
Yeah, I bet. And having that extra edge in what can be a competitive job market, that can make all the difference.
Absolutely. So let's say you've got your engineering degree, maybe even a master's. You're ready to dive headfirst into the world of rolling stock. What happens next?
Well, it's important to remember that in this field, you never really stop learning.
Oh, definitely not.
It's a continuous journey, much like a train traveling along its tracks, right? You might begin as an entry-level engineer, working closely with more senior team members, getting a feel for the day-to-day.
Kind of like an apprenticeship, but for, cutting-edge trains.
Exactly.
So you're building that foundation, learning the ropes. But where do you go from there? What does that career progression usually look like?
RoleCatcher lays out a pretty typical trajectory. Entry-level, junior, then intermediate, and ultimately you reach the senior rolling stock engineer level. And naturally, each step comes with increased responsibility.
I can imagine. So after years of experience, what does a typical day look like for a senior rolling stock engineer? What are some of the exciting projects they might be leading?
Well, in those early stages, it's a lot of absorbing information, assisting with testing and analysis. But as you transition to a junior engineer, you start collaborating more directly on designs, maybe even taking ownership of smaller projects.
Finding your footing and really starting to make your mark, that's great. And then things get even more interesting at the intermediate level.
Exactly. At that point, you're likely leading design projects, managing modifications to existing rolling stock, troubleshooting complex technical issues. It's a whole new level of responsibility.
And finally, the peak of the career path, senior rolling stock engineer. It sounds like that role comes with a lot of prestige and influence.
It does. Imagine, shepherding major projects from that initial spark of an idea all the way to seeing a finished train roll off the production line.
Wow.
You become not only an engineer, but a mentor, a leader. Often you're involved in groundbreaking research and development.
Wow. Pushing the boundaries of what's possible in rail technology, that's got to be incredibly rewarding. It reminds me of a senior engineer profile I saw on RoleCatcher. They were developing a new braking system that drastically reduced energy consumption.
There you go.
That's real-world impact.
Exactly. It highlights how this career isn't just about the mechanics. It's about finding solutions that benefit everyone, both people and the planet. But even with years of education, experience under your belt, continuous learning is essential. Technology never stands still, does it?
Preaching to the choir. With new technologies and materials emerging all the time, how does a seasoned rolling stock engineer stay ahead of the curve?
It's all about being a lifelong learner, attending conferences, keeping up with industry publications, those niche journals that get us engineers really fired up.
Yeah, I get it.
That's key. And of course, there's a whole world of professional organizations out there offering fantastic networking opportunities.
So you've got to have that inherent curiosity, that drive to constantly learn and evolve. You also mentioned certifications. I think RoleCatcher highlighted a few. Are those essential for climbing the career ladder in this field?
They might not always be mandatory, but they're like shining badges on your resume. They help you stand out from the crowd.
True. Who doesn't love a good credential?
Exactly.
So which certifications are we talking about here?
One of the big ones is the Professional Engineer PE license. It's especially important if you're aiming for leadership roles or even want to consult independently.
Okay, makes sense.
Then there's the Certified Maintenance and Reliability Professional, the CMRP.
Catchy.
It tells employers, I'm the one you want to keep those trains running smoothly.
For those who are detail-oriented and love optimizing everything, that sounds like a perfect fit.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the always valuable Project Management Professional, PMP, certification. And it's a versatile one too, right?
That-
Project management skills come in handy in all sorts of fields.
That's for sure. But let's backtrack a bit. For those who are just starting out, you don't exactly graduate with a framed PE license right now.
You're right, haha. Those first steps are so important.
Yeah.
Internships are fantastic. Real-world experience, the chance to network, get a feel for the industry, and never underestimate the power of engineering competitions.
Those late-night brainstorming sessions fueled by pizza and adrenaline. Love it.
The best.
But what about those of us who aren't students anymore? What are some other paths into the field?
Joining a professional organization is always a smart move. Attending meetings, maybe volunteering for projects,
Right.
even just having conversations with people already working in rolling stock, those connections can open doors. And don't underestimate online resources either.
You mean tools like RoleCatcher's AI-powered resume optimizer? I've heard that thing can be a game changer.
It really can. It helps you tailor your resume, highlighting those specific keywords and skills employers are looking for. It's like having a secret weapon for your job hunt.
Okay, so you've got the skills, the education, maybe even some internships under your belt. You land that coveted rolling stock engineer job. What's it actually like? What surprised you most about this career path?
For all the talk about advanced technology and complex engineering, the biggest surprise for me was how human this field truly is.
Really? Tell me more. I'm intrigued.
It's easy to get caught up in the technical side of things, the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
But at its core, this career is about people. You're collaborating with a whole team. Engineers, technicians, clients, even safety inspectors. You're working together to solve problems, innovate, and ultimately you're creating something that benefits everyone.
So even in a field as technical as this one, those human connections are what make all the difference. That's something listeners can take to heart no matter what career they're pursuing.
Absolutely. And it really highlights the importance of clear communication, empathy, having that genuine passion for the work you do.
Well said. This deep dive into the world of rolling stock engineering has been absolutely fascinating. But before we reach the end of the line here, we always like to leave our listeners with a final thought, something to ponder, as they navigate their own journeys.
Right. We've covered a lot of ground, from the resurgence of rail to the skills and dedication it takes to thrive in this field.
We have.
But what we haven't discussed is the unique perspective why you, our listener, would bring to the table.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this.
So here's a challenge for you. Imagine you've landed your dream job as a rolling stock engineer. What's that one challenge you're most excited to tackle? What innovative solution would you bring to the world of rail transportation?
I love that.
Something related to speed, sustainability, accessibility. Let your imagination run wild.
And on that note, we've reached the end of this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed the journey. And until next time, keep those wheels turning.
Hear, hear.
And remember, the future of transportation is riding on your ingenuity.